Welcome to the Moon Manifesting Podcast with Kyra Howearth. Hi, I'm Kyra, business astrologer, moon manifesting mama, author, teacher, and mentor. I teach you how to harness the energy of the moon, stars, and cosmos so you can manifest your dreams and discover a deeper purpose to your life. Welcome to the Moon Manifesting Podcast. I'm so happy to see you here today. I hope that you're having a really amazing week. So in today's episode, I am actually answering a question that I got on Instagram a while ago when I asked for some podcast ideas. And one of you wanted to know exactly how to do readings for others. In this episode, I'm going to be explaining how you can do a reading for someone else, even if you're a novice, and whether this is like a tarot reading, an astrology reading, or anything else. I'm going to set out the basic steps to ensure that, you can provide an accurate reading and that the other person, whether it's like a friend or a family member or even a professional like client, to make sure that they're satisfied with, what you're offering. If you've ever wanted to do readings for others, but maybe you've only ever done readings for yourself, this episode is for you to help you find that confidence so that you can do readings for others. So before I dive into those exact steps, I'd like to remind you that I actually have a tarot deck that I made, the Moon Manifesting Tarot. The Moon Manifesting Tarot is an 82 card tarot deck, which is loosely based on the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, but with additional lunar wisdom woven throughout. So every single card is aligned with a moon phase as well as a zodiac sign, which really adds an additional layer of meaning, which you can use for things like timing. I really love using these cards for like asking when something will happen, as well as using these cards in like new and full moon readings, whether that's for myself or someone else. It really adds a touch of that lunar magic. So you can get the Moon Manifesting Tarot through the link below in the show notes if you're looking for a magical moon-infused deck to use in your readings. Okay, so let's talk all about how to do readings for others. So I'm going to assume that in this sort of setting, you're probably just doing a reading for, someone else, like a friend, a family member, and you may not be getting paid for this service. You might just be doing it as a practice or something like that. But regardless, I would advise, number one, to set the scene. So have a nice area where you can do a reading. So whether that's just simply getting like a nice little cloth, like a reading cloth, you can get some beautiful tarot reading cloths, and I'm sure there's a better word for it, but like a nice little square, and it can be like a really, beautifully designed. Having like something like that where you can put your cards down, so you're not just like putting them down on like a grotty table or anything, that can really help. Other things you could do might be to burn some incense, diffuse some essential oils, maybe have some crystals around that can help enhance your intuitive powers, enhance your channeling, anything else that you feel might help not only you feel a bit more comfortable and a bit more in tune with your intuition, but also help the client or friend or family member, whoever you're doing the reading for, help them kind of get into the vibe, help them to be more open to these messages that they are about to receive. And if you're in a space where you're doing this in person, you might like to offer them a cup of tea, like maybe have a cup of tea each or something, so that you feel relaxed and you feel comfortable. And if you're doing a reading online, it can be also helpful to ask if they want the reading recorded. If you're using Zoom, which is what I use for my readings, you can easily record and then send them the link to the recording after the reading. And I find that a lot of the times my reading clients will go back and watch that replay. In some cases, they'll watch it many times and go back to that information that I provided, sometimes even months later. That's always a really helpful thing to do. If you're doing an in-person reading, if they want to record the reading like as a voice note voice note on their phone or even set up a video for it, that's something that I do encourage, because I do like to offer that to my clients, that, sometimes I say things and it might be, they might want to go back to that later to understand fully what I was talking about. And of course, some people like to take notes as well. So there's that option as well. Give those options to your client so that they can record in whatever way feels good for them. I also feel it's really important at the start of the reading to set expectations for the reading. And this may vary depending on what you're actually using for your reading. But I do like to say things like, the future isn't set in stone. So even though this reading may provide some insights for what to expect in the future, anything could change. And always reminding your client that they have free will. Like, even if things come up in the reading that might be quite negative, or like it might feel like they don't have control over the situation, just remind them that they do have the power to change anything that comes up in the reading. That they have the power. They have their own free will. Setting the actual setting for the reading and then setting those expectations are some really important things to do before the reading even begins. So once you've done that, I find that before you actually start pulling out tarot cards or looking at the astrology chart or whatever it is to spend a few moments grounding your energy and clearing your mind. So I will often do a really quick meditation before jumping onto a Zoom call to do a reading for a client. And same, if I'm doing an in-person reading, I'll just take a quiet moment. If I arrive at a client's house or something, I'll just sit in the car to quiet my mind for a few moments before actually doing the reading. So this really serves a purpose for ensuring that you're leaving your own stuff behind, so that when you go into the reading, you're going with a clear vessel and you're not dragging your own stuff into the reading. And when you clear your mind, you're also opening up that channel for downloading those intuitive insights, for being an open vessel, for receiving those insights from the universe, for those messages that you need to pass on to your client. Use whatever feels good for you, that you are able to clear your mind and clear your energy and ground yourself before the reading. It might vary depending on what feels good for you. Maybe meditation doesn't work for you, but maybe holding a chunk of black tourmaline can really help you feel centered and grounded. Do what works for you. But the key here is to just, clear your mind, ground your energy. Okay, so then we move into the actual reading. So how to do readings for others. So use your divination tools of choice. So whether that's tarot cards, whether that's astrology, maybe you're going to be looking at their natal chart, doing a natal reading. Maybe you do pendulum readings. Maybe you do other things like just channeling, what's the word? Like a psychic medium type reading. Use whatever you feel comfortable using. Use runes, use whatever, use what you feel comfortable using. So when going into a reading for another person, I like to have a few kind of guidelines available. So if I'm doing a tarot reading, I might prepare myself by already having in mind the spread that I'm going to use, or a few different spreads depending, because often there can be different situations that call for different spreads. So in a tarot reading, my go-to spread is the Celtic Cross spread, which is a 10 card spread. And this usually takes me about a half hour to go through this entire spread. There might be a few moments towards the end of that reading where I'll ask my client, if they want any further clarity, and maybe we'll pull another few cards. But generally, the Celtic Cross is my go-to for tarot readings. If you're doing an astrology reading for others, it can be helpful to go in there with, kind of an idea of what you're going to be sharing with your clients. So whether they want a natal chart reading, or whether they want to look at, what's coming up in the future, they want a forecast, or maybe they want to know more about their love life. It's helpful to kind of go into that reading knowing what they want in advance, or at least having the ability to know that if they ask about a certain thing, that you know what to look for, or what spread to use. If you're using tarot cards, kind of looking through the lens of astrology now, if someone asks about their love life, well, you'd be looking at things like Venus, Moon, the seventh house, that sort of thing. So yeah, have some sort of preparation done beforehand so that you have a guide for what the reading will look like. Yeah, so the next thing I want to talk about is channeling. So when doing a reading for others, it can be quite different from just doing a reading for yourself. And something that has really helped me over the years is to be more open to the messages that I'm channeling through. So back when I first started reading cards, I didn't really feel very intuitive, but I knew how to read the cards. Like I knew what a Two of Pentacles meant, and I knew what Four of Wands meant, and that sort of thing. And so I was kind of just like reading the cards and being like, okay, this is what's going on. And as I grew my confidence as a tarot reader and I began exploring my intuitive powers a bit more and began trusting my intuition, I discovered that when I bring that into readings, when I'm following my intuition and following those little nudges that I get, rather than just saying like the black and white meaning of a card, then I was really hitting the point with my clients on a deeper level. Like I was really getting to what it is that was really going on for them, rather than just saying like, oh, this is the Two of Pentacles. You need to balance your health. Like, maybe looking at the Two of Pentacles and like my intuition might be like, they've got to quit smoking or something like that, being open to those intuitive nudges, even if they don't quite make sense, just putting it out there for your client and seeing if that resonates with them. And, if it doesn't, then maybe like, oh, okay. If that happens, right, if you say something and your intuition is like, this, you've got to send this message through to the client, and if they then turn around and say, oh no, this isn't going on for me, there can be one of two things happening here. So number one is that maybe it doesn't resonate with them at all, and that that's fine. But the second thing, which I find is possibly most common, is that they're either not aware of it, but it is happening, or they're denying it. So trust your intuition. And even if the client is like, oh, that's not actually what's going on, maybe later on after the reading and they have time to process it, they may be like, oh, actually, that tarot reader, that astrologer, whatever, was actually really spot on with what they said about that thing. So yeah, don't let that baffle you if like your intuition is like giving you this really strong message and then the client's like, oh no, that's not right. Yeah, because often your intuition is right. Like, yeah, your intuition is always right to some degree. Okay, so after the reading, after you finish the reading, so as I said, I usually go through like a set like spread, or like, if I'm doing an astrology reading, I kind of go through like a process. And then I try to leave about 5 minutes towards the end of a reading to ask if they have any questions, if there's anything that they want to know more about. Often, I'll do like, a pretty comprehensive reading, and they may come up with questions like as they go through the reading. So it can be really helpful to just check in those final minutes before the reading is actually over to see if there's anything unanswered. If they, if there's more things that they want to know about, see if you can get those answers for them. So once the reading is over, it is really important to cleanse your energy, because so often, as like tarot readers, as astrologers, we can be really empathic and we can take on other people's energies and carry that with us long after the reading has done. So after the reading, cleansing your energy is so important. So whether that's using a smoke bundle, like a sage bundle, using some essential oils like some rosemary or something in the diffuser, or just like wiping it over your hair, or using crystals like a selenite wand or some black tourmaline to take out that heavy energy, or even just going for a walk out in nature can be really grounding and cleansing as well. So doing whatever feels good for you in the moment, but just making that conscious effort to cleanse your energy in whatever way feels good. Because yeah, otherwise you tend to kind of carry this energy with you. And yeah, it's not great. You don't want to be overloaded with everyone else's problems because you've got your own life to live. So some other considerations if you want to do a reading kind of like on a professional level, like if you want to get paid for doing readings, then obviously you're going to have to consider payment. So when doing readings for others as a professional, I take payment up front. So I get people to book in through my website and they pay for it when they book the reading. So that just really makes life easier for me. I don't have to chase up for payments. I don't have to worry about it on the actual like Zoom call or at the actual reading. Payment is already sorted. So I highly encourage taking upfront payments. It really helps just make that payment just like a non-issue. It's like it's done, it's booked in, it's paid for. And you don't have that kind of hanging over you while you're doing the reading, like, oh my God, are they going to pay? Because too often, like, you might go through a reading and then at the end you may not have the confidence to ask for payment or something like that. So know that you're worth it. Know that you can ask for payment up front. And of course, if you're doing like a reading in a situation where like maybe they can't do a payment upfront necessarily. Like for example, when I was doing readings at local markets, people would just walk up and, say, oh, can I have a reading? And I'd be like, sure. I would get them to pay at that point before we actually sit down and do the reading. It's just a good practice to get into. Take the payment first, then do the reading. So another consideration if you're doing this on a more professional level is that after the reading, you might like to ask for a referral or a review or testimonial. These are really good steps to help you get more reading clients. I've found that the best way to get more clients is word of mouth referrals from people who've already had a reading with me. And sometimes you just need to ask for the referral. Sometimes, like, when the reading's over, you can just say like, hey, if you know anyone else who would like a reading, would like a bit of guidance, here's how they can book in with me. You just ask for the referral. Even if it's in a follow-up email, if you're doing online readings or if you're doing like an in-person reading, just asking for it. And asking for a testimonial. So whether they can just do a review on your Facebook page, give you a Google review, or even just email you a testimonial or review that you can then put up on your website. These are all really good practices because they will help. They really do help when it comes to getting more clients and getting more paid clients because it builds that trust factor. And another consideration if you're doing this on a professional level is to maybe ask if they want to book a follow-up appointment. So I've definitely had readings where we kind of go into one section and then we run out of time for the next thing. So for example, because I offer both tarot and astrology readings, sometimes, clients book in and they want to do both, but we only have time to really go into astrology. And so at this point, if they still want to do the tarot reading, I will suggest that they book in for another appointment. And this can also be really effective because it shows that you're professional, it shows that you're organized, and when you book it right there on the call, it really affirms that yes, they're actually going to come back. Because sometimes if it's you can just book another appointment because we've run out of time today, they often won't come back and book because, life gets in the way. But if you book it right there and then while you're talking to them, it's booked in and it's done. So that can be really powerful for getting those follow-up appointments to keep those clients coming back and back and back again. So I hope that this episode was really helpful for building our confidence for doing readings for others. And if you do have any more questions about this, feel free to send me an email or send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. I'm always so happy to answer your questions from the podcast episodes. So as a reminder, this episode was brought to you by the Moon Manifesting Tarot. But no, in all seriousness, the Moon Manifesting Tarot is a really beautiful deck to work with. I've had so many reviews about this deck since I've launched it over the past few months, and as people have been using it, it's become the go-to deck for so many people who have emailed me or talked to me on social media about it. And it's a really powerful way to blend the moon with tarot. And chances are, if you're here listening to this podcast, I know that you love the moon and you also likely love tarot. So the Moon Manifesting Tarot is available directly through my Etsy store. I also have some beautiful stockists located in various places around Australia. But yeah, you'll find the details below in the show notes. And if you do want to book in a reading to see exactly how the process goes, I do have bookings available, so you can book in a reading in the show notes below as well. Well, have fun doing readings for other people. I'd love to know how you go. Let me know if you do a reading for someone else, if this episode has given you the confidence to actually go forth and do a reading for someone else. Let me know. Let me know if you employ some of these strategies, if you use some of these tips. I would love to know how that goes for you. I will see you all in the next episode of the Moon Manifesting Podcast. Stay manifesting, stay magical, and stay tuned. I'll speak with you really soon. Thank you for listening to the Moon Manifesting Podcast. If you're wanting more moon magic, check out my book, Moon Manifesting. Download your free Moon Manifesting calendar or connect with me on social media. You can do all of that at kyrahowearth.com.au. Stay magical, stay manifesting, and stay tuned. I'll speak with you in the next episode.